do my foxtails. Now this method would apply for any of your fur bearers that you would need a long tail in. I'm going to be making my own tail here this time. You could buy a commercially done tail, or you can even cast the bone of the tail when you skin them out. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a wire here, and I'm just going to kind of stick it up in here, making sure I have a little bit of extra wire in there. I'm just going to mark the end, and I'm going to cut it off right there. Okay, we're going to pull this wire out. I'm going to bend a loop in it. What we're going to end up doing is bondoing this into the body of the mannequin. So we just want to have that loop there, and it'll give us something to bite into. We're going to kind of stick this tail wire back into there. We're just going to kind of take note on how much we need to build this up. The first little bit we're going to leave wire, and then we're going to slowly taper it into the meat of the tail here. Just take a mark here, and that'll kind of be the start of the meat. And that's where we'll know that's where we're going to start our string here. Now I'm going to be using Excelsior for this build up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stick this wire in the drill, tape some thread on here, and we'll be able to build it really quick that way. I forgot to change my camera angle here, but you can kind of see that here's the start of this tail. You can kind of see the electric tape where I started the string on there. And we're just kind of holding the string here while we're running the drill, and we're just kind of working it over that Excelsior. Just builds that meat in the tail pretty quickly. We're going to just keep pressing it flat the whole way because their tails aren't a perfectly round shape. They kind of have a little bit of a flatness to them. So we'll just do that until we get this tail about the thickness that we want here. And just like that, we have our finished foxtail here. It's pretty easy to make them this way, and they're pretty inexpensive to make. Now we just have to get this tail sewn up here. Now when I go ahead and get this tail ready to sew up, what I'm going to do is just kind of split them apart. I'm going to use some masking tape. I'm just going to put the masking tape right beside our skin area where we're going to be sewing. I'm just going to kind of lay it on here. Now I usually let my hair just slightly damp. It helps to keep it down as opposed to being dry, where sometimes it ends up being a little fluffier that way and you have a little harder time trapping the hair. But you don't want to leave it too wet either. So we're just going to wrap each side with masking tape, then we'll be ready to sew this guy all up. We're just going to kind of slide our tail in here, position it to where we need to position it. Then we're going to be ready to start sewing this thing up. Now we're going to take our needle here. We're going to sew it up. I'm just using a half curve needle with 8-pound braided fishing line. We're just going to sew it up. You can use a baseball stitch or roll stitch. Really any stitch will be fine, because these tails, they're fluffy enough that you're pretty much going to hide any type of stitch work you do once you end up getting them done and fluffing them up. So I'll just end up taking the baseball stitch here until we get to the end of this tail, and once we get it all sewn up, then we're going to end up setting this tail into the form. We'll just use a body filler to do that, and then we'll get the rest of the fox set up and we'll fluff this tail up. We won't see any of our seam here, and we'll have a pretty good looking tail then. One thing to keep in mind on this foxtail, the gray fox, they have the dark spot on the top of the tail, and we just want to make sure that we keep that kind of aligned there as we dry it and work everything into position here. And that there is my process on how I finish my fur bearer tails. Here's the finished photo of it zoomed in. As you can see, it's fluffy, and you can kind of see that black hair pattern.